Alright folks, so I am here to give you my thoughts on The Ones Who Live episode 2 and 3. I apologize for not getting my episode 2 review out last week. I was a little tied up with the other videos I've been posting, so I'm gonna do a combined review here. But with that being said, I get it. Shut up, start talking about the episodes. So right off the bat, starting with episode 2, they show a 6-year after the bridge time card as we pick up with Michonne. That is incorrect. 6 years after the bridge would have been immediately after Rick's departure. And given that we had a couple time jumps in between season 9 and 10, it puts us at minimum 7 years after the bridge, probably closer to 7.5. But moving on, I'm going to start with some of the things I was a little disappointed with in this episode. First of which is the caravan that Michonne is with. It's kind of just that, a caravan. We were never promised anything with them, but I always expected, maybe they were from another fallen city that we hadn't heard about, something big like that. But the biggest thing about them is that they leave people behind and just keep moving, which interesting enough, I guess, but I guess I just expected a little more. But it's kind of cool seeing the contrast between how Alexandria is all about community and taking people in while this caravan just leaves them in the dust. It's kind of cool, but I feel like they could have done it a little bit more. We're introduced to a few new characters, one of which being Nat, and the two others being King Bach and whatever the girl's name was. I honestly can't even remember. What I did like about them is that they did harp on Michonne about is finding Rick worth the lost time with her kids. And that's a running thing that keeps going throughout the episode, which I do enjoy. It's something that should be talked about. The only proof she really had was boots and, a phone with her image, which isn't nothing, but to be gone for as long as she has is definitely a point I'm glad they kept bringing up. Overall, the caravan group wasn't really that interesting, but I think they could actually make a return as Michonne introduced herself to them. She told them she has kids, they know who she is now, the leaders. Who knows, maybe they could be interrogated by the CRM and expose Michonne's cover, but who knows, time will tell. That being said, Michonne decides to head north on her own to try to reach the Bridger's Terminal, I believe it's called, which is the only lead she had on where Rick could possibly be from the logbook in season 10, episode 13, I believe. Blocking Michonne's way north is a giant mega horde, which Michonne rolls up in this really cool samurai armor, and I can't help but feel this scene was extremely disappointing. You don't give a character like Michonne armor like that, someone we know can just mow down walkers left and right, and not really have her, go ballistic in it. I wanted to see her find maybe some sort of evidence that the CRM may be responsible for having Rick, and see her stop at nothing to get through to him. Which, if you've seen my Hidden City theory, I thought that this mega horde was a moat surrounding Philadelphia that the CRM used, and I was pretty disappointed that it was just kind of another horde just blocking the way. I don't know, I just can't help feel that Michonne in her armor was underutilized for how badass and cool it looked. But Michonne doesn't really get the chance to even really fight the horde before her new friends from the caravan end up coming to help her. And I will say, it was cool for Nat to have this plan for horde divergence using chemicals for long-lasting burns. But man, we were robbed of seeing Michonne slice her way through that horde, seriously. That being said, we see a little splinter group of the caravan decide to go with Michonne, and they head north towards Delaware, I believe they said. But on their journey, suddenly they hear helicopter blades, and before they know it, they are getting bombed by chlorine gas. Presumably everybody in this splinter group of the caravan dies. Everyone except for Michonne and Nat. But what I absolutely love about this is that it took Michonne what appears to be almost a year to recover, along with Nat. We see the seasons passing, I think that's a great explanation for why she's been gone so long with no progress. Because it seems like she was only with the caravan for she was just kind of traveling with them for a little bit, trying to find her way, trying to get north. But what held her up was that her lungs were needing to recover. We watch her having to exercise. She can barely do a push-up, which we know Michonne, we saw her in the prison doing one-handed push-ups. So it really emphasizes how much that, attack fucked them up. We see King Bach and whatever his wife's name was, unfortunately get killed off. It sets up Michonne being angry at the CRM, even though I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed with her knowledge and how far that extends about the military. What I mean is, at the end of episode 1, we see her come in and slice in the throats, no mercy, of these soldiers that gave me the impression that she knew something. You know, she's been hunting these guys. These aren't the first ones she's taken out. Maybe she found some sort of evidence that the CRM is responsible for Rick, or, you know, something like that. But they didn't necessarily go in that direction. The Bridgers terminal being a bust, I think really works because it really, you know, drives home this hopelessness for the mission that she's on. But having Nat there to kind of keep her looking ahead and keeping hope within her, I think it really worked, and it made me understand what the point of Nat's character was, opposed to just being another red shirt to just kill off for shock factor. But that being said, Michonne and Nat see a helicopter flying and immediately start firing on it as revenge for the caravan incident. And when brought down, Michonne wastes no time taking them out. You know, we saw that in episode 1, but the reunion between her and Rick, I gotta say, I think was absolutely perfect. Michonne is so in shock. That was the last person she expected to be under that helmet, and you can just see it on her face throughout the whole scene. Rick has to pretend like Michonne saved him and he's like taking her in to be a consignee. But even as he holds a gun to her back to show the CRM that he doesn't know her, she's got a huge smile on her face, and the scene reflects Rick's smile in the series finale of The Walking Dead. But cutting the reunion short, one of the CRM soldiers shoots Nat, killing him right then and there, and I think this does work, but I wished it was harped on a little more going into episode 3. I think it would really reinforce her frustration with Rick not leaving with her, even though she doesn't understand the scenario, if she kept bringing up, you know, Nat gave his life, basically, for me to find you. I love the mirror from the beginning of the episode of Michonne introducing herself as herself to the caravan, and at the end, introducing herself as Dana to the CRM to hide. I don't know, it just makes the episode tie together really well. All the scenes with them being together again just works so well. One of the first things to come out of Rick's mouth is Judith okay? You know, is she alive? That's the Rick Grimes we know. Puts family above anything. It was fantastic. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy episode 2, but quite a bit less than episode 1, if I'm being honest. I just expected to see the warrior come out in Michonne a little more, which that's not the direction they quite want to go yet. That's okay, but I did really love that, you know, she was held up because of the attack from the helicopter. Kind of just brought a little bit more realism in for me. Everything from the reunion after, I think they absolutely nailed. So I'm gonna give this episode an 8 out of 10. A great follow-up to the first, but I think they just could have done a little bit more on Michonne's journey. But moving on to episode 3. Now, I love how this episode opens with Rick getting to see inside the hidden city. You know, it's like dangling the keys in front of them, like, this could be yours. But he sees Jadis, and from what it appears, it was pretty early on to his time in. What's interesting is that she got to skip the consignee work and immediately got citizenship within the city. And it's because of Rick, which kind of confuses me. How did anyone know he was any different than any other survivor, you know? I get that Okafor, like, saw something in him, but I just don't quite understand how that equates to her getting to skip, like, 6 years of work. I know she probably had connections before even leaving the group in season 9, but if somebody knows, maybe clarify that in the comments for me, because it left me a little bit confused. Now, in the present day, we see Rick visit Pearl, and he claims he wants to rescue her because she saved him, you know, out there. He doesn't know her at all, and that, you know, she shows qualities of being an A. But he claims to want to stick his neck out for her to honor Okafor, which I think is just a great cover-up, because Pearl can relate to that. You know, should have been executed, she was an A, but Okafor stuck his neck out, he saw something in them, and now look at them. Rick's pulling that Uno reverse card right back on him. Now, Jadis is absolutely fantastic. I couldn't stand her in season 7 and 8, she was so annoying, but now she's quickly become one of the most interesting characters in this universe. I'm not even joking. What's interesting is that she is just as trapped as Rick is, but she doesn't care, she's cool with it. She understands that this is how it needs to be to rebuild the world one day in their image, and she is fully on board. She says she will have everyone at Alexandria killed if either of them try to escape, which, having somebody that high within the CRM know that secret, that Michonne isn't who she says she is, really fucks up Rick's whole plan to get her out of there. She's a friend to an extent, and Rick saying, you know, I'm gonna kill you. It's a good reference back to season 7. Which is funny because we get another reference later on where he's like, people are a resource, quoting Negan straight up. You know, it really shows how much Rick has changed since his time in the CRM. Major General Beale is absolutely fantastic, but god, we need more of him. Only getting like 4 scenes of him by episode 3 is criminal. He's a character I want to learn more about. I want to see him more. He is so interesting, yet we are getting pretty much next to nothing, so I hope that picks up over the next few episodes. So the plot of this episode is Rick trying to protect Michonne on the inside to get her out. One of the biggest thorns in his side is Pearl.
Oh brother, this guy stinks!
Who we find out has now been promoted to a red stripe soldier, which we still are kind of unclear about what they're about. We know that they, you know, go out and do some dirtier shit than some of the regular soldiers do, but we have yet to see like what that entails. It's funny because it seems like everything that is good for Pearl that is happening is kind of like a test for Rick to test his loyalty by Beale. But Rick enacts a plan to get both him and Michonne out, and Michonne follows his plans out to basically the middle of nowhere using the tunnels we saw in the first episode. But we find out that Rick fully understands he is screwed. He can't leave. Michonne might have a chance to get away. He frames it as if she died in the river trying, but of course Michonne, you know, she's not leaving without Rick, even though he tries to pull the "if you love me, you'll leave" thing. But it's interesting because I keep seeing a lot of controversy about this. Like, people are like, why did she go back? Like, I can't believe it. Is anyone really shocked that she stayed? I mean, this is what I was talking about wishing they harped on Nat's death a little harder in this episode. Because I think if she came at him with, like, people have died for me to try to get you back, it would make audiences see it from her perspective a little more. But I love the scene where she just rips off Rick's helmet. She's pissed. And Rick is equally as pissed. You know, they're both frustrated with each other, and to me, it makes sense both ways. Michonne doesn't know the full extent of what these people know about her. You know, Rick hasn't really told her much. So it makes sense that she'd be like, let's just go, we can fight him. But from Rick's perspective, he's been trapped with these people and he knows he can't get away without Alexandria falling. I wish he would just say this, because we see in the episode 4 trailer, he tells her this. I don't know, maybe if he just like got to the point a little bit more, she would understand a little bit more. The Carl mention was absolutely amazing, but I still find it a little weird that Rick would even after, I know he said it was years before he started talking to him and like giving him more information about them, but I think it's weird that Rick would even like risk saying their names to anyone within the city. But that being said, I want to talk about Pearl Thorne and how she is a perfect foil for Rick right now. She understood over years that there was no escape after watching Rick try and fail, and eventually begun to actually see the perspective of the CRM and believe in what they were trying to build. So when she's promoted, you know, she really embraces moving up. She doesn't want to screw it up. But then you have Rick over here coming with Michonne, and he tries to say to her, Okafor, the only reason we're alive is because he saw something in us. Let's bend the rules a little bit. Let's tell everyone she's a B. Out of mutual respect, Pearl agrees to this. We see Pearl bring Michonne and Rick out to the bombed Lincoln financial field. And here we see Pearl play mind games with Rick. You know, she knows something shady is going on there. She knows that he knows her from somewhere. Luckily, Michonne says the right things for Pearl to gain a little bit of trust and accept her into what they're planning. But what I love is that Rick, you know, he draws his gun, and then after, like, it's all said and done, she's like, I know you know her, you know, you drew your gun on me, like, you were gonna put me down if I tried. And he's like, nah, you know, I saw you draw your knife, I was ready to back you up. You know, it's a really smart cover, and, you know, she's not an idiot, she knows something's going on, but I don't know, I just really like that scene. What's interesting is that Pearl and Rick's outpost that they were building in episode 1, Cascadia Base, is about to house a summit for all the Civic Republic leaders. And what's even more interesting is that this outpost is over on the West Coast. And what's on the West Coast that we know has relation to the CRM? The city the CRM did not get a chance to bomb like Omaha. There's definitely a reason this base was built and why it's where it is, but we'll have to see where that's going over the next couple episodes, but I'm really intrigued with what's going on there on the West Coast. And I gotta say, tactical Rick and Michonne is something I didn't even know I needed, but god damn do they look cool. Michonne defying orders and, you know, pushing that bomb thing out into the middle of the horde, and then Rick actually joining her was really well done, because they have this frustration with each other, like, let's just get out of there. but they can't help but take a moment to just embrace each other and take a step back, even if it's not the most like ideal moment to do so. But like I said, Michonne doesn't understand how big this group is and what they know about her and Rick. But Rick does, and he's like, no, this is not the time. This is not the time to run. I don't know, I just think it's really written well, you know, you see equally from both of their perspectives, in my opinion at least. We find out from Pearl later on that Major General Beale is promoting Rick, so our boy Ricky Dicky Doodah is getting those red stripes, and I cannot wait to see that. But Michonne seeing Jadis for the first time again was absolutely hilarious, you know, Jadis is like, oh, hello, like, basically, and she's like, what the fuck? I don't know, it just made me laugh. I think after seeing that and like everything that went down and how serious they take security here, Michonne starts to realize like, oh shit, like this is much bigger than I realized. And as she's being transported with Rick from the outpost back to the outskirts of Philly to be back on consignment duty, I think she realizes the only way she's getting away with Rick with her is if the CRM undoubtedly thinks they are dead. And she fucking grabs Rick and jumps out the helicopter just like that. Now listen, Michonne is not stupid and she's not gonna just, you know, kill both of them like that. One of them has like a parachute or something, or there's water low enough to not kill them on the drop. You know, there'll be something like that. But yeah, I think that's the direction they're going. They're gonna have to fake their deaths and run from the CRM. But yeah, I absolutely loved this episode. Not as much as the first episode, but more than the second episode. The only real negative is they need to talk more, you know, they need to let each other know what's going on with both, you know, RJ on Michonne's side and the seriousness of the situation on Rick's side to Michonne. But overall, I'm gonna give this episode a 9 out of 10. We're at the halfway point. I cannot wait for episode 4. I've heard from early reviewers it's the best of the first 4 episodes, so I just can't wait, and I'll try to get that review out for you guys next week at a decent time as well. But yeah, if you like this review, hit that like button, and if you're feeling generous, hit that sub button as well. Thanks for watching, folks.